The Stainless Docs platform is now in public beta. You can upload your OpenAPI spec and launch a doc site today. Stainless Docs is built for the next era of API platforms where both developer experience and agent experience matter equally. This means that your docs need to serve both human readers and LLMs, and we know that neither tolerates outdated code samples or type signatures that don't match the actual SDK. Connect your OpenAPI spec to Stainless and your SDKs, code samples, documentation, MCP server, CLI, these are all going to rebuild together automatically, keeping everything aligned as your API evolves. All right, so we've just signed up for Stainless and it's time to create a new project. Let's call this docs launch demo. We're going to pick a language. Let's just use TypeScript for now. And we want to launch an API docs site. I have an OpenAPI spec that I can upload right here, and I'll kick off a new project. As soon as our new project is created, we're dropped into the Stainless Studio, and this is where you can customize your SDKs, your MCP servers, and CLIs. But today we want to focus on your documentation. So if we go back to the overview of the project, you'll notice that a brand new doc site has been set up for us. Let's actually drill in, and you can add your own custom domain. You have access to a repository with the actual underlying code for your entire doc sites. Inside of our deployment details, we can expand and look at what are the logs that are happening as part of our build. All of those tools that we've grown to know and love as part of continuous deployment, we can see directly here in the Stainless dashboard. All right, it's been 2 minutes and we have a doc site. Let's go take a look. So here's a vanilla Stainless doc site just launched with only the OpenAPI spec. Now we did generate a TypeScript SDK, so we can look at this API reference with some TypeScript examples. You'll notice that our code example on the right side is synced up with our Stainless generated SDK. We also see the types that are expected as we make requests into this API endpoint to create a pipe in this case. And we'll also see the return types that were expected when we get a response back. This is really powerful because it's not just your raw HTTP reference. You're getting the SDK reference integrated tightly with your API reference. There's also lots of tools here that make this LLM friendly, so we can open in Claude, Cursor, but I wanted to show you the Markdown. So the Markdown is carefully curated so that LLMs can consume this in a very helpful way. So you're going to see examples that match the actual underlying SDK. So we see all the params, their input types. We see the shape of the response and its return types. And at the bottom, we're even going to get an example here that the LLM can then use as part of its integration process. So you can start to see the power of the combination of your docs platform alongside generated SDKs and MCP server and CLI that all work together seamlessly to create this next level developer experience and agent experience for your API platform. A common affordance that most developers have grown to expect is the ability to chat with docs. Here's SendBlue using a Stainless doc site, and we can chat directly here and ask, what's the TypeScript for looking up a customer by their phone number and then sending them a follow-up message to see if they want to check in at the end of the week. We can fire that off. Now we have a solid message that we could go off of to start our API integration with SendBlue. But let's talk briefly about how easy it is to actually get up and running with your doc site locally. We can pop open this GitHub repo that contains our doc site. Now, customizing our doc site is really straightforward with a handful of CSS variables that we can modify. So if we wanted to come in here and make this a really fun green, we'll call it a very fun green. We could do so very quickly. Now, say I wanted to change the font to Geist Mono. I'm a big fan of Geist, and so we can drop in a couple more changes. This looks pretty good, minus the green. So let's actually revert the green back to something a little bit more palatable and call that good. That looks pretty nice. We can create a branch, update brand, and we can make a PR. As part of our GitHub checks, we now have a link to look at our Stainless doc site build. So we can jump over here and see the status of the preview build as it goes out, and we'll get a preview URL where we can test and make sure that our doc site is working as expected. Now you see the adjustments that we made to our brand. We can see our new font, our colors, etc., directly in the preview before we decide to merge and publish this out. Every page on your doc site automatically generates OG images based on your method signature and the API reference, and even your pros pages will show breadcrumbs. So you're going to see your branding and these beautiful images that also help inform the developer. There's a lot that comes out of the box, but there's a lot of features we'd love to add on the road to V1. We'd love to have you join us and help us shape the future of what the Stainless Docs platform looks like. Head over to stainless.com and give it a try.